Folks, election integrity has faded a little bit from the headlines, but not because it's any less important. In fact, it is absolutely critical, especially heading into this very significant midterm and a lot of important state races as well, folks. Our country is at a critical crossroads, and these elections may well determine the future of our very nation. One of the states that's taking the lead in trying to fix some of these problems, trying to reform where reform is possible, is the great state of Wyoming. I'm Alex Newman. This is Conversations That Matter for the New American Magazine. Joining us today to discuss Wyoming's efforts on this front is Wyoming Secretary of State Chuck Gray. He is the Secretary of State there. He has been involved in the political process in Wyoming for years, and he's a great American. Chuck, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's great to have you with us today. So, Chuck, you have taken a great interest in election integrity, election security. Talk to us about the initiatives that you are undertaking as a state in Wyoming.
Well, in this 2025 legislative session, we were able to get some key election integrity reforms through the Wyoming State Legislature that we had been working on for years. A big one was proof of citizenship and proof of residency for registering to vote. Only U.S. citizens should be voting in elections, period. It's common sense. And only Wyomingites should be voting in Wyoming elections. So why was it that we did not have a process in place for proof of citizenship and proof of residency for registering to vote? When you think about the registration process, it really should be a 3-check box process. Proof of identity, proof of citizenship, and proof of residency. But the only thing that most states have is the proof of identity process. So we put forward a rulemaking in 2023 to bring forward proof of residency into our election procedures and strengthen our procedures around verifying citizenship. And unfortunately, our very liberal governor, Mark Gordon, vetoed that rulemaking on April 12th of 2024, the very day that President Trump was announcing with Speaker Johnson at Mar-a-Lago that proof of citizenship for registering to vote was a key election integrity priority for the 24 campaign and for the upcoming administration. So think about that juxtaposition. I mean, literally the day that the governor is vetoing this effort, President Trump is talking about how important it is. We didn't give up. We went to the legislature with the conservative majority that we have over in the House, worked with Representative John Baer, who was the lead on a bill to bring forward proof of citizenship and proof of residency for registering to vote. And we were able to get through that through the session. With that, Wyoming became the first state in the nation to have a proof of citizenship requirement for all races, federal, state, local, that can't be waived by the election judge. Because we have an exemption from what's called the National Voter Registration Act, we were able to apply it to all races. And this is a really important effort across the nation. I'm proud that Wyoming has taken the lead on it.
It just seems so obvious that you would want to make sure that only citizens are voting in an election. And yet we keep seeing this over and over again, that very common sense reforms that you would think almost everybody, at least everybody who wasn't trying to cheat in an election, would be very enthusiastic about. Talk to us about some of the opposition that you guys ran into, Chuck. You mentioned the governor vetoing this common sense measure. Was there out-of-state money coming in? Were there legislators complaining about this? Were there NGOs involved in pushing back against this? What kind of arguments were they making? And, how do you try to defend allowing non-citizens to vote when they're not allowed to legally, or at least not putting measures in place to stop that?
Well, Alex, you're absolutely right that this has overwhelming support from the American people. Poll after poll shows this having over 90% support. And when you're at over 90%, you're not just talking about 98, 99% of registered Republicans. It's over 92, 93% of registered independents, and then even over 70, 75% of registered Democrats support this. I mean, they did a field poll in California, of all places, and it had over 80% support there and over 70% support with registered Democrats. There is a widespread consensus on this common sense measure, but we've seen how much the Democrat Party has been taken over by the radical left. And then in red states like Wyoming, we have this issue that we've faced throughout my time involved in public policy, which is the infiltration of the Republican Party by leftist activists. And Mark Gordon, who is a very left-wing insider politician, he has had the support of the media, who's repeated his false talking points. He's had the support of big money donors. And so this coalition they formed, I call it the troika, because it's sort of a three-pronged monster. This coalition they formed has been a force that has prevented us from being able to bring through common sense conservative measures, not only in the election integrity space, but in many other areas. Now, since I entered the legislature in the House, we when I entered only had 6 members in the House that were really conservative. We grew that cycle after cycle from 6 to 12, from 12 to 18, from 18 to 28 to 36 in the 24 cycle, to a majority in the state House, a conservative majority in the state House, which I worked with to bring through this measure. But then we faced this challenge from this liberal Mark Gordon, who vetoed our procedure in 2024, and then he would not even sign the bill in 2025. It became law without his signature, and it took our founders, the drafters of our state constitution, who were very forward thinking and put a provision in there that pocket vetoes aren't allowed, that saved the day on this, because even after the bill passed with veto-proof majorities, the legislature had adjourned, and he still would not sign the bill. It became law without his signature in 2025. On top of that, we faced the state Senate, which weakened the bills a little bit, weakened all of our election integrity measures that we brought forward. We actually had an election integrity reform agenda that was 10 points, and we brought through every single one of those bills through the House, and 4 of them were stopped in the Senate. We got 6 of the 10 through the state Senate, and the governor refused to sign one of them, but they all became law. So we face challenges from the forces that are always in place against bringing through these common sense conservative measures, the insiders, the big money, and the media that does not want these conservative measures that the people support to go through. But we got the job done, and we're continuing to work in areas where we were not able to get these bills to the finish line.
Wow, I'm grateful to hear that. And folks, I'll remind you, Wyoming is one of the most, if not the most conservative states in the country when it comes to the electorate. I mean, these are really conservative folks. They're rural people. They're God-fearing people. And if you look at how much trouble they're having in Wyoming, right, with getting these common sense things through, I think you'll have a better understanding of the enormity of the problem we face here. Chuck, I do want to talk a little bit about the subsidized green energy scam, as the president recently called it, at the United Nations. I know Wyoming has not been immune from that, but some of the other things that people who are watching these election issues are very concerned about. We've got the machines, we've got the mail-in voting, we've got all the ballot harvesting, all these kinds of things. Where do you think Wyoming and ultimately the country need to go on these issues so that we can really have full and total confidence that the election results truly represent the will of lawful voters?
Well, one of the bills that was part of our election integrity agenda that we also advanced in this session, the 2025 legislative session, was a rewrite, a ramp up of our voter list maintenance procedures. Voter list maintenance, voter list hygiene is a very important part of election integrity, ensuring that the voter rolls are correct. And one of the things that we're doing is a state-to-state check with other states to examine when individuals request licenses in other states, which is a key indication that somebody has moved. Stay tuned on an announcement on that is coming in the next 24 hours, where we have carried out investigations pursuant to those improvements in state law and the election code that we brought through the legislative session. We also entered the SAVE database, which is a very important database to do a live cross-check on citizenship. Now, Biden would not let us, the first 2 years that I was in office, I was sworn in January of 2023, this Biden would not allow us into the SAVE database, and Governor Gordon would not put in place an executive order that would have provided a nexus, the nexus that we would have needed to hurdle the Biden objections to us entering the database. So what we did in 2025 is we said, we're not going to have this happen again. We wrote into the election code that Wyoming will participate in the SAVE database, and we entered that SAVE database this year. And the Trump administration is just doing such important work in optimizing this database. Just in the last 4 months, they have allowed for batch uploads so that you can have this cross-check for the entire voter list and not have it one sort of search at a time, which is very cumbersome. They've waived the fee on it, which made it cost prohibitive, the previous fee that Biden put in place on it. And they've really done optimizations to allow for this live cross-check to examine the voter rolls and to ensure that the voter rolls are clean. We just had a meeting at the White House with other Republican secretaries of state on those optimizations, which have been much needed. And then also, I've been working a lot as the Wyoming Secretary of State. I sit on the State Board of Land Commissioners. I've worked a lot on stopping this woke wind, this subsidized wind that the radical left is trying to plop down in Wyoming. These subsidies that Biden, Harris, Obama, Clinton, the radical left have put in place these subsidies over decades. And we see now 8 to 9 projects being proposed across the state of Wyoming. Now, the Trump administration, President Trump, is just doing a fantastic job in the Big Beautiful Bill, in working with the Congress in trying to remove these subsidies, because we see this subsidized wind. It is not reliable. It is built on a fantasy. It is built on taxpayer dollars. They're boondoggles. And President Trump just did a fantastic job at the UN yesterday talking about this issue and saying, he's been saying this on Truth Social posts and in the speech yesterday, we're not doing any more of this woke wind. But unfortunately, you see a lot of bad state actors that are part of that troika group that we were talking about earlier, insiders like Mark Gordon, the media, the big money that is all in on these woke subsidized wind projects that are bad for our country. And one of the things that went through the State Board of Land Commissioners, I was the only one opposing this project. It is a proposed wind project in 2 of our counties in Wyoming, where it's not just wind, as bad as that is. They're going to take the wind, make hydrogen with a water-intensive process, and water is gold in Wyoming. So they're basically going to try to compete with our ag producers and put our ag producers out of business. And then from there, they're going to take the hydrogen and make synthetic jet fuel. And they're going to pipe it down to Denver International Airport so that Soros and Hans-Jörg Wyss and all these woke billionaires can claim that they're green when they take their private jets to Davos. It is totally twisted. And amazingly, you have this board with all the state elected officials, the governor, the treasurer, the auditor, the superintendent of public instruction, and myself. And I was the only one to vote against this woke wind project that was proposed in these 2 counties. So I've been trying to get the word out about all these forces in Wyoming that are trying to plop down these wind projects. And it is totally inconsistent with the strong stand that the Trump administration has taken on stopping this woke wind, the great work they are doing in pushing back on what Biden, Harris, and Obama had tried to do with these boondoggle subsidies. And it is a really important battle in Wyoming. It is a defining battle in Wyoming.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Chuck. I didn't know a lot of that. And my guess is a lot of the voters in Wyoming don't know a lot about that. But I think they would be very concerned to find out that so many of their elected officials are supporting this kind of project that is, of course, going to consume massive amounts of taxpayer resources for very little benefit, or maybe none at all. Chuck, we're just about out of time. How do people follow you? Are you on any of the social media? What's the website for the Secretary of State's office? How do people keep up with the great work you're doing in your office?
Yes, I'm on X at Chuck for Wyoming, also on Facebook, on Instagram, on Truth Social. Contact me anytime. Please follow our work. We continue to post updates on the work we're doing on advancing conservative election integrity measures, on advancing the conservative values that I was elected to uphold. And we're following through on those promises. It's not just talk, it's action. So please follow me and contact me anytime.
Hey, we're very grateful for that, Chuck. And to the listeners out there, go send this to your own Secretary of State. Send this to your friends and your family in Wyoming, because the fake media is not going to share this with the voters, and the voters can't make good decisions unless they have good information. So do your part. Get this information to the folks in Wyoming, to your own state leadership. We have got a country to save. Chuck Gray, Secretary of State for the state of Wyoming, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for leading the way on these critical issues. I hope we can talk to you again soon as you have more updates.
Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. Again, get over to thenewamerican.com, thenewamerican.com. Sign up for the print magazine. Sign up for the free newsletter. You can get all the daily headlines. And again, us putting this information out does no good if you don't get it to the people who need it. So please share it. Send it out on social media. Send it to your Secretary of State. Send it to your legislators. And send it to your friends in Wyoming. Until next time, Alex Newman here, Senior Editor at The New American. Thanks for watching. God bless you all.
Do you know how your U.S. representative and U.S. senators are voting? Or how about your state legislators? Well, you can find out on thenewamerican.com using the Freedom Index. That's where we keep track of how every member of Congress in the House and Senate and every legislator of all 50 state legislatures vote on key issues. You can find this out on thenewamerican.com/Freedom Index or on thefreedomindex.org.